When Mary Frick Garrett married Dr. Henry Barton Jacobs in 1902, 6 years after her first husband's death, she bought number 7 and engaged John Russell Pope, another court architect of the early 20th century, to design the addition. Like White, Pope was one of the most influential architects of his era. He went on to become the leading proponent of neoclassicism, most notably in Washington, D.C., where he designed the Constitution Hall, the National Archives Building, and the National Gallery of Art. In Baltimore, he designed the Baltimore Museum of Art, the Masonic Temple of Scottish Rite, and the University Baptist Church, as well as plans for the campus of Johns Hopkins University. Pope was responsible for the easternmost part of the Garrett-Jacobs mansion, including the library, a hall paved in tiles of buff-covered cane marble, a supper room, and a ballroom. The latter was particularly lavish, measuring 30 by 70 feet, with a large stage and pipe organ at one end, and a partially gilded ceiling inset with glass panels lighted from above. Dr. and Mrs. Jacobs' guests repaired to this room after supper downstairs to enjoy music and the tableaux vivants that were the fashion of the day. Seated on gilded benches, upholstered in red wine velvet, guests were surrounded by the Jacobs art collection, eventually valued at $2 million and donated to the Baltimore Museum of Art. Directly below the grand ballroom was the supper room, or Hall of Mirrors, where between 40 and 60 guests would dine from the gold service and Venetian goblets. Lit by delicate Messian chandeliers and sconces, this room opened onto the conservatory through an elevated musicians' gallery. Mr. Pope redecorated the first-floor drawing room, originally designed by Stanford White, furnishing it with furniture of the Louis XV, Louis XVI, and Regency eras, and brightening the environs with a Chinese rug in light and dark blue with touches of rose, gray, and deep blue. The walls were covered in old gold brocade over the dado and were hung with Louis XVI gilded mirrors and Gobelin tapestries. One mirror still hangs behind the lavender mantel. Mr. Pope, eschewing the English oak favored by White, designed the library in proper baronial manner, paneling the room with hand-carved mahogany motifs in the style of 17th century master woodcarver Grinling Gibbons, and lighting it with English Baroque-style sconces. The library housed a collection of many rare books, most in the field of music and medicine, which was later donated to the Peabody Library. In 1913, the stables at the rear end of the house were raised, and a small gallery was built to house the art collection, forming the fourth wall of what would become one of the most splendid private conservatories in the country. Vibrant orchids, banana plants, a 20-foot rubber tree, and lemon and orange trees flourished in this 3-story atrium. Here, too, a fountain burbled and birds and monkeys roamed freely. 2 years later, Mrs. Garrett purchased number 13 to the west of number 11 and demolished portions in order to provide light and air for the magnificent Tiffany dome atop the Stanford White stairway. The conservatory was demolished for safety reasons prior to the club's arrival in 1961. The Garrett-Jacobs Mansion is a contributing structure to the Mount Vernon Place Historic District, a National Historic Landmark. Mount Vernon is the site of Baltimore's most significant 19th century architectural legacy and home to many small businesses and restaurants, as well as to many of the city's leading cultural assets. The Engineers Club created the Garrett-Jacobs Mansion Endowment Fund with a mission to preserve and restore the architectural and historic character of the mansion, a legacy of Baltimore's 19th century architectural, cultural, business, and social history. The two organizations collaborate to restore, maintain, and improve the mansion to make it functional and accessible for public use. Together, they generate funds for its future preservation and maintenance through fundraising and obtaining public and private grants and gifts. The mansion was nearly demolished in the 1950s to build a new addition to the Walters Art Museum. Baltimore Heritage, a historic preservation society, led the campaign to the Engineers Club, which had been founded in 1905 after local engineers had come to the city's aid after the Great Fire of 1904. The club's purchase of the mansion continued their long tradition of service to Baltimore. By buying the building, they, along with the volunteers of Baltimore Heritage, saved it from certain demolition. The club has served as a conscientious steward of the Garrett-Jacobs legacy, carefully maintaining and restoring the mansion as a premier Baltimore historic and cultural landmark. We have not only preserved the mansion as a cherished artifact of another age, but have returned the building to its rightful role as a gathering place for social, business, and civic functions. A very popular event site, every year more than 40,000 members and visitors assemble at the mansion for professional, social, cultural, educational, and civic meetings. A master plan calls for restoration of all main floor rooms. The drawing room was the first of the main floor historic rooms to be restored in 2007. Baltimore firms, including Thomas More Studios and Johnson Berman Architects and Design, were hired to research and complete the project. The work was completed in June 2008 at a cost of $448,000. The Engineers Club has been an outstanding steward of the mansion since 1961. The endowment has joined them in that task since 1992, completing more than $6 million worth of major improvements over those years. The long-awaited protective easement between the Maryland Historic Trust and the club became official in February 2009, thus guaranteeing the mansion's place among historic buildings in Baltimore forever. Thank you for visiting us today. Commemorative brochures and posters are available for purchase at the reception desk.